So this is going to be a quick video. I'm going to make this a series of shorts. I'm currently reading A Song of Ice and Fire, and we're going to talk in this video about Robert Baratheon and how he ruined his whole career. Right? So Robert, he was young, he was strong, he was full of life. He was a monster on the battlefield. Right? He loved his women, he loved his wine, he loved his parties, and he loved to fight. And then somewhere along the line, he meets Lyanna Stark, Ned's sister, his best friend's sister, and he falls madly in love. And they were to be wed. But as we know, Rhaegar Targaryen allegedly kidnapped Lyanna. Robert killed Rhaegar at the Trident. And Lyanna died on a bed of blood. And this destroyed Robert Baratheon. He became a shell of a person, depressed, cynical. He pretty much lost his way because the love of his life had been taken away from him, and he found no joy in life whatsoever. He drank himself to death, he whored himself to death, and he got killed by wine and by a boar. And, I watch different channels like Order of the Green Hand, and they say that Robert Baratheon is a tragic figure. And I agree with that, but not completely. Because we know that Robert inflicts a lot of harm because of his passivity, because of his tendency to be this destroyed individual. He drinks all day. He doesn't care about the kingdom. He lets Littlefinger and Varys and the Lannisters do whatever they want. He brings Ned Stark to King's Landing, and all sorts of things happen, and they both die, unfortunately. Right? But here's the problem. This is my theory, and I have not seen any other Song of Ice and Fire channel speak of this, which is that I consider Robert to be a simp. He simped for Lyanna, and from what we understand, he didn't really know Lyanna, the person. He didn't really know her true personality and so forth. He just fell madly in love. He created this image of Lyanna in his mind. He was love struck. From my view, it seems to me that this Robert's affection, Robert's love was one-sided, because we never hear Lyanna's take on it. Her only line is, well, she tells Ned, well, men never change, and Robert will never be, faithful to one woman, and so forth, right? But we never get an in-depth look at Lyanna's point of view. So to me, Robert is a simp. He fell madly in love. He lost this person without ever really knowing who she was or what she felt or what her opinions were. And this makes it even more tragic. Because of this one-sided affection, and because Robert was destroyed by this loss, he became a shell of a person. He didn't care. He was indifferent, and because of this indifference, a lot of people had to suffer. A lot of people died. His bastards as well. The kingdom is in debt. You know, Littlefinger and Varys pretty much run the show, right? Because of his indifference, evil people had too much power and they abused it, right? Because of his indifference, his best friend died. Because of his indifference, Joffrey becomes king, and we all know what a shithead he was, right? He did absolutely nothing to improve the situation, and all because he had created this delusion in his mind that this young girl was just as in love with him as he is with her, which isn't the case. Right? Because of this delusion and illusion, Lyanna, I think, was basically a stranger to him. Because of his indifference, Cersei manipulated him like she wanted with no problem. And then she finally, poisoned him with wine and whatever. And then the boar came, and that's that. And then she had Ned imprisoned, as we all know. So, what I'm trying to get is that Robert Baratheon ruined his whole career by being a simp, by being in love with somebody he did not know. Until we get Lyanna's point of view, I will maintain my conclusion that she was a stranger to him, and that he was, it was love at first sight. That's what I believe it was, and he ruined his whole career when Lyanna died, allegedly kidnapped by Rhaegar Targaryen. And because of this delusion, nothing but tragedy and death and suffering followed his rule as king. Right? He did not care that Ned obviously didn't want to be Hand of the King. He didn't care when Ned was a bit disinclined to marry Sansa to Joffrey. He got bullied by Cersei to have Ned kill Sansa's direwolf lady, and so forth. So he wasn't a good king, he wasn't a good father, he wasn't a good friend, right? He wasn't a good man, right? And he ruined his whole career because of some girl that probably didn't love him at all. And this girl was probably a complete stranger to this young Robert Baratheon who lived like there was no tomorrow, like life was nothing but a party. So that's about it, basically. This is how Robert Baratheon ruined his whole career, and because of his poor choice, no, because he just didn't care, because of his indifference and apathy, a lot of people had to suffer. And yes, he is a tragic character. He is. Mostly not because he lost his one and only true love, but because he was deluded with the idea that Lyanna felt the same way. I don't think she did at all. right? And that's what makes him a tragic character, that he had created this fucking story in his mind that, oh boy, Lyanna Stark, we're meant to be together, right? They probably never really talked, you know, intimately about their true feelings and so forth, right? Which makes it hilarious that he was so consumed by this girl. So that's how Robert Baratheon ruined his whole career, and unfortunately, just because he is a tragic character, and he suffered, and he drowned himself in wine into an early grave, just because he had pain, that does not excuse all of his poor choices, poor decisions, you know, and to show just what kind of to show just how low he had fallen in a Game of Thrones when Robert wants to have Daenerys and her unborn child assassinated. Ned Stark just calls him on his bullshit and says, "I never considered you a man that would tremble, at the shadow of an unborn child." So Ned Stark knew exactly what Robert had become, and he called him out in the small council, right? I mean, I have no sympathies for it. Absolutely. Until we get more information, my stance on Robert Baratheon will remain the same. And he ruined his whole career and everybody's and Ned Stark's whole career because, I don't know, he was a simp. Tell me in the comments if you consider him a simp. For the moment, until we get any more information on Lyanna Stark, I will consider him a simp. Thanks for watching. See ya.